happened to you while working on Kingdom Hearts?
On Kingdom Hearts?
Kingdom Hearts.
The funniest thing.
Yeah.
That you can talk about.
Whoa. Let's see. You know, I think the funniest thing is probably the recording process for Dream Drop Distance, because they told me nothing throughout the entire thing. They were just like, hit this word, go down on this word, and go up on this word. So anything you see in Dream Drop Distance, I had no clue what any of it meant. Because like, I gave me no context. Well, listen, they're super secretive about Kingdom Hearts. It's like one of their like top projects, and they're like, we don't want any of you stupid voice actors to ruin this. Or like everybody go, oh yeah, I played, you know, this character who like, oh my gosh, Final Fantasy 15 character is gonna be in this game. Like they don't want to see anything crazy like that happening. So they tell us nothing, and they give us no context for any of our lines, and they're all completely out of order.
Wow.
So everything made no sense to me whatsoever. So the recording process for me, the funniest part is me going, I hope this is good. I don't understand what I'm saying. Please, please, please don't hate me. I hope this performance is fine. So me like schwitzing, me sweating, just like, oh God. That was the funniest part of Kingdom Hearts. That's the best I can do for you. Yes.
On that note, since as an actor you have to basically know where your character's at when it comes to doing your lines, is doing that really hard for your craft? Not knowing where your character's supposed to be at emotionally or how they're supposed to be reacting to a situation?
Yeah, it's really hard. Basically, you are super reliant on the director, the guy who's actually voice directing you, because they're the ones who have to know all of that stuff and be able to go, okay, here's what's properly happening, here's what's actually happening in the scene, here's the proper direction to take you in. So sometimes, and you'll be able to tell this if you ever, it's usually with video games because they have the most dialogue out of like anything we do. You'll find some line and you'll go, wow, it's like he's not even really there. I don't understand what's up with that. That one line just doesn't make any sense. It's not because the actor has no idea how to act, it's because we were told one thing and it turns out it was wrong. So, like for instance, I played a character in a game for PS2 called Rogue Galaxy. My character's name was Jupus. They did not tell me anything about how the other actors were going to perform. So they have me being one of the most zany, energetic characters on the team, and everybody else is like playing it very straight. Like, yeah, we got to go into this dungeon. Yeah, there might be a bad guy there. What do you think?
I agree. Let's do this. What do you think, Jupus?
Yeah, let's go. They're like hiding behind a rock, and there's like some guys nearby that like shouldn't hear that. It's like that, and you're like, why is this guy doing this stupid performance? That's totally wrong. Those guys could hear that. I had no idea. Nobody told me. So I was just like, he's crazy, so I'm just going to say loud, and that's what happened. So whenever there's some sort of weird, like, they hit the wrong word. Why did they emphasize the word world instead of greatest? Like, you know, like, any of that stuff, it's usually just like there was a miscommunication somewhere down the line. Either the director didn't know what the scene was, or we got told something wrong, or it's just a bad actor, which does definitely happen. So yeah, it makes it hard. It's just kind of like, please let this turn out good. Yes, sir.
I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
First one's really quick. Yeah, you mentioned you've been working for 30 years. How old are you, if I might ask?
I asked the same thing today!
I'm 36 today.
You look 25.
That's what I said! That's what I said to him! He looks 25.
Aw.
Okay.
Yes.
So, my second question, you've had some run-ins with the furry community through things like Ed Wrestling. I remember, that's actually how I discovered you, when you discovered certain websites.
Anyway. And also, there were things I didn't post on Twitter, buddy. That it's like, people were like, hey, whatever you do, don't look up this. And I'm like, all right, I'll look it up, and I regretted it. I say this, don't look it up. It's called Cheese Grater.
No.
I looked that up. I was like, I very deeply regret this. Yeah. So.
Anyway,
yeah.
what are some of your most, what are some like memorable experiences or interactions with that community that you've had since then? Like,
you know, honestly, it's largely been very positive. I think like the worst things are people going, you're a furry now because you retweet art, and I'm like, it doesn't really work that way, I don't think. But like that's like as bad as it gets. It's mostly like, honestly, it's interesting because as a newcomer coming in to see what that's all about, it looks to me like it's mostly artists. Mm-hmm. It's like people who like draw a lot of stuff or make costumes or things like that. And you know, in my industry, a number of my friends were storyboard artists and things like that. they're also furries. So I'm like, this really isn't that weird to me. I'm just kind of like, oh, it's people who are like kind of celebrating art mostly, and they like a lot of Disney stuff. Like, oh no, it's the worst thing. Like, no, it's not like this weird fetishy thing to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has that side. Everything does though. Like, right? Like I'm sure like the guys who were here for the Donald Trump dinner last night, they probably look at everybody here dressed in costume and go, oh, they're all a bunch of weirdos and perverts. And it's like,
I overheard a couple of them.
it's like, yeah. And it's like, no, it's mostly people who are like, I like this show, I'm gonna dress up as this character. That's it, and that's all it is. So it's like, I've had nothing but like largely positive experiences from the furry community, and like I do not have a problem with them at all. And I'm hoping to hopefully someday do like a furry con, because I've never been to one. And they look like really crazy.
There's
and fun.
Anthrocon in Pittsburgh.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
Midwest Fur Fest and
That's the other big one, and then there's like a third one, I think that's all.
Cincinnati.
BLFC.
That sounds right, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I have two questions. The first one is, if you were not casted as Bond for Seven Deadly Sins, what sin would you have wanted to voice act?
Wanted to voice
Yeah.
it? I'm gonna say Merlin because she's so sexy. No. I would say maybe Meliodas. But knowing me, if I didn't get Bond, I would have gotten King. That's my guess, because like me and Max, we were constantly like being confused with each other. People were like, oh man, I loved you in Persona 5, Ben, as like Ryuji, and I'm like, oh, thanks, I'll tell Max you said hi. So like, chances are, like if anything got switched, I would have probably been King and he would have been Bond. It would have been
Okay.
something like that, you know.
My other question.
Yes.
How do you feel about the bromance between Meliodas and Bond?
I like their ridiculous friendship because like they're both basically indestructible, so they just kind of try to kill each other as a joke, which I find like hilarious. It's like, you know, like if, you know, sometimes like anime has this habit of like a character being just way too OP, and it's like, and if you can make fun of that, if you can have fun with that joke of like these characters are basically indestructible, they're practically made of silly putty, it's like, well, might as well. And so like I like the fact that they're like these two weird, completely different looking characters who are just like bros and just like beat the hell out of each other as a joke, and it's just fun. And that's like their version of a high five is like punching each other into a wall, laughing about it. I love that stuff. I just think it's ridiculous and funny. Yes.
What did you think of young Xehanort once you got to see what was going on there?
Let's see. So for young Xehanort, it took me a while to get to him. I was one of those guys who got like the first Kingdom Hearts and the second Kingdom Hearts and went, what the hell happened? Who are all these characters? And I didn't realize that all the side games were all related and important to the plot. So my girlfriend, who's a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, she basically said, alright, before you play Dream Distance, you won't understand anything, sit your ass down. We're going to play through all of the games. And I'm like, okay, so we did 1, we did 2, we also did all the side games, we got the collection for PS4 and all that stuff. Got through everything, and then I got to my character, and I was like, now I know what he is. Because when I first played him, I first saw him, I'm like, oh, he's like a young guy with a name I can't pronounce. Is this important? And people were like, yes. He's the series antagonist as a young guy. I'm like, oh! I thought, because the direction for that game was, make him mysterious. Don't make him evil, mysterious. And so I'm just like, for every line, like, I hope this is actually good. And then I found out, I'm like, oh, that's why. It's because you're not supposed to really know who he is for the first like half of the game, and then you understand. You go, gotcha, he's the bad guy.
He was my favorite performance of that.
Well,
entire
thank
game,
you.
So.
Don't give me any credit. It was the Japanese director saying, oh, furato. And they're like, oh, flat, gotcha. It's like, okay. So that was all them. I take like basically no credit for it, but I thank you for the compliment.
Your consolation is you grow up to be Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, that ain't bad. I'm gonna say yes, sir.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Hi there. So I'm not sure about you guys, but I kind of grew up in the 2000s watching Codename Kids Next Door.
Yes.
So I was just wondering how you feel about it, whether you like to talk about it with anyone, rather not talk about it, get somewhere in the middle, and if it's the first one, what's your favorite episode if you can have one?
Sure. Like, let's see, I'm kind of in the middle. It's one of those things where it's like, nobody wants to be pigeonholed and be like, that one thing, and then that's it. So like, there's a part of me that's kind of like, oh, I wish people would focus on some of the newer stuff I'm doing. But at the same time, I was kind of growing up at about the same time. I think I was like 16 when I did like the pilot for that show.
Wow.
So it's actually part of my childhood too, and also I'm pretty much forever a kid. So it's like, it's still part of my childhood because I've never really grown up. But no, I'm proud of that show. That show was like my very, very first real big project. Everything else was like, oh, I'm a recurring character in a cool show, or like, I'm a lead character in a show nobody cares about. And this was one where it's like, okay, there's actually a big audience, and I'm like 2 of the lead characters, and this is a huge responsibility, and I get to work with everybody who made my childhood. So like, the guy who played my dad in the movie was Frank Welker. He's like, was like everything. If you've heard anything, anywhere, you've probably heard Frank. He's like the, oh gosh, in Aladdin, he's Abu, and also like the Cave of Wonders. Like, he's like the guy he has like more credits than Mel Blanc, literally. Yeah, Megatron. He's
Scooby-Doo?
everybody. He's your friend from Scooby-Doo, and now Scooby-Doo. Yeah, so it's like, oh my gosh, this guy who was part of my childhood plays my daddy in this show. It's like the whole thing was like that, and that's why I love that show. It remains like a very important part of me, just because without that, and the way I got it was like so lucky. It was originally the way it was going to be done was Tom Warburton, the creator, he wanted to hire one of his friends, who's also a voice actor, Sue Rose, to play number 2. He basically made that role for her. Sue Rose, for those of you guys who are like, I don't know who that is, if you remember a show called Angela Anaconda, she played Angela. So the girl who played Angela was going to do that voice for number 2. What happened was Colette Sunderman, the casting director for this, said, I know you got your heart set on your friend Sue. Let's put it up for audition just in case you hear anybody else you like. So I auditioned for 2 characters, number 4 and number 2. After I was done with number 2, I left the room, and Tom said to Colette, oh man, I think I'm gonna have to tell my friend Sue she's out of a job. I like that guy. And so that's how I got number 2. Number 1 was originally played by a kid. He wasn't British, but his mother was, so his accent was perfect, and he was a real little kid. He was like 12. By the time it came to do the pilot, actually record the whole thing and get it all put together, his voice had changed. He'd gone to summer camp, he came back, and suddenly he sounded like a man. He couldn't do the voice that they needed, so they went, oh God, we need to recast. So they held open auditions again, didn't hear anybody they liked, and they said, okay, what about we listened to D. Bradley Baker and Ben Diskin, since they're already on the cast, let's try them. And so I wound up getting number 1 through that. It became its own pilot, then it had to win this crazy contest in order to become an actual show, and it did. So like, it was all of these, like the stars all and the planets had to align in order for this to happen. So I consider like myself extremely lucky to be a part of that show. As for favorite episode, it's easily Support, which for those of you guys who are like, what's that one? It's the one where the kids find number 5's sister, Cree, they find her training bra. Oh, yeah, and it's just me talking to myself, wearing a bra, and talking about, like, soon the kids next door will all be wearing bras. Yeah, which cracks me up to this day.
Well, for what it's worth, like, even back then and now with Tales of Mysterio, this most recent one, like you all times, like back both then and now, so appreciate that back in the day.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. Was there a question back there?
Yes.
Yes.
What would you say was your favorite either moment with Bond or your favorite moment recording as Bond?
It's any of the like ridiculous high five scenes as Bond with like him and the captain, just because they both kind of like, well, especially Bond breaks character because he's usually like really cool and laid back about everything, and he just goes, and he has like this stupid like happy face, and they just start like high-fiving like idiots. But my favorite is the first one because you've never seen the show, you don't know what's coming, and you just think, oh, they've got history, they're gonna kill each other, these 2 powerful things, and they just start like high-fiving and acting like children. That's my favorite one. So any of that stuff, by far. Yes, sir.
Getting to something along his, did you ever have any moments when you were recording young Joseph and you suddenly were thinking, like having a flashback of number 1 being like, can you tell Susie Q, these wool socks are too itchy? Do you have any like mental flashback of like, oh my gosh, like was it kind of hard or was it easy trying to separate number 1's voice and Joseph's voice?
It's easier because number 1 is higher pitched, and it's also, that was back from when I was like 16, 17, so my voice was just like higher naturally, and it didn't have any gravel in it, and so it was this, and then I had to yell and put on a British accent, and this is what number 1 sounded like. But Joseph Joestar is just my regular speaking voice without trying to change anything, and just throwing on an obnoxious, false British accent and a lot of bravado. So it was just like, okay, I could like flip back for it. It's like, it's not too bad. And like the characters don't remind me of each other too much, because like number 1 was like always like, I'm in charge and I'm brave, and Joseph Joestar's like, I'm in charge, I'm brave, just kidding. Yeah, like that's that kind of thing. So I feel like the characters are distinct enough. But I did play, there's a show, I think it's on Netflix. It's a 3D retelling / sequel to the Cyborg 009 franchise. It's called like Cyborg 009 Cyber Dimension or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Justice.
What is it?
Something of Dawn of Justice.
Something like that, yeah, I think it's Dawn of Justice. And it's like CG, and I play 007. So it's like an older bald Nigel. And it's like, oh, okay, that's #1 grown up. It's just like the exact, like, okay. So it's Great Britain and it's the same thing.
And then the second one is that, how did you feel about the stuff going on with the Galactic Kids Next Door? As far as, because I know that they were like, apparently from what I heard, that they were like, had a good decent amount of like the idea of it and certain people, but then it just got nicked.
Yeah, that's true. Basically, Tom Warburton really wanted to make a sequel to Codename Kids Next Door, featuring the Galactic Kids Next Door. And for those of you guys who are at all wondering or curious, because it's not going to happen, unfortunately, the plot line was going to be, they find out that growing older is actually a disease, that you're not supposed to grow older, and the Galactic Kids Next Door are the ones fighting against that. And they're trying to figure out a way of fixing this problem that's making everybody old in the first place. And so that was going to be like the base plot line, and he had a whole bunch of things, all these different alien creatures laid out of like from different planets having the same kind of thing. It was going to be really cool. And it got nicked because this was just the right idea at the wrong time. They approached Cartoon Network about it, and they said, listen, right now, this is a cool idea, it's cool that you made this thing, and this whole website and all that stuff, but we're not looking to reboot any of our like old stuff. We're trying new things right now. And then like, I swear to God, like months later, they were like, announcing the reboot of Powerpuff Girls. It was like, and we're just like, oh, we've gotta be, oh. So we just came in at just the wrong time. Like if it was like maybe a few months later, it might have gotten something happening.
It was too fresh in their minds.
Too fresh, yeah. So it didn't happen, but I'm not salty about it. I kind of was like, yeah, okay, it's all right. But I mean, I would have loved to come back and do it again. It just didn't happen. These things happen. Yes, sir.
This isn't really like a question so much as it's just more of an appreciation.
Is it an attack? Oh. The question. F you.
I've seen your recent tweets about Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and as one of the rare unicorn species to actually know what Undernight Inverse is, I very much appreciate you calling Merkaba Lord Noodle Noodle.
Thank you.
Wait, seriously, on behalf of all Merkaba faithful, thank you.
My pleasure. It was good to play him too. Thanks.
It's a great role. I love it.
Yes, sir.
First off, I keep on hearing inflections of Haida coming out of your voice.
Oh, Haida's just my regular speaking voice. That's why.
I know. So, second question. So, during your career as a voice actor, have you ever been like hard pressed for work, or has it been like a pretty stable sort of?
Oh yeah, no. The acting industry in general, everybody's hard pressed for work. I mean, even like if you see somebody like they seem to be in everything, you got to realize that was a year ago because it takes that long for everything to come out. So it's like a lot of the projects that are coming out right now, like the one that was just mentioned, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I did that last year. That money is spent. Like I've already spent that, and it's on rent. It's not like, oh man, I'm going up to like Bermuda and having a party. It's like, no, this is like bills. So, and a lot of this stuff, we don't get what are called residual payments. Residuals are where it airs, and then they go, oh, it's aired again, here's a little bit of extra money. We don't get that stuff unless it's union, and most anime is non-union. A lot of the video games that you guys like are non-union, so that means you get paid once, bye-bye. So you're immediately, it's basically, I'm hired, I'm employed, and now I'm back to being unemployed the same day. So every single day it's a constant hustle, looking for new work, looking for new employers, constantly trying to just pay the bills. And we live in Los Angeles, so it is, like my monthly payments are $2,000 every month for just my home. That's not including food and electricity and all that stuff. So if I don't come up with that, I'm just boned. And it's that kind of thing, and it's like that for pretty much all of us. So it's like, yeah, we're working a lot. If you're lucky, and if you're not, you better get a second job. You need something else, and it's hard to get even those. So it's kind of nuts. The times for me, mercifully, where I was like going through like tons of dry spells, I was living at home with my parents. So I was like safe, and I didn't have to worry about like if I'm not working, I'm gonna die. right now things are going pretty well for me, so I'm doing okay and I'm hanging in there. But it's like, if I go through anything like I did when I was younger, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have to like get rid of my home. I'm gonna have to move. I don't know. So it's one of those, you know, topsy-turvy kind of industries.
Is the con circuit pretty generous? Like, does that help out a lot?
The con circuit is, for the most part, generous. It depends on also what kind of contract you have. So for instance, some people do what's called a guarantee. And what that means is, you are, let's say it's like a $1,000 guarantee. That means you are going to make $1,000 somehow at this convention. So let's say it's like, okay, you sell autographs. That's how you're gonna make your money. And I make $400 selling autographs. The convention goes, okay, you made $400, you had a $1,000 guarantee, here's $600. Or you get what I like to do, which is just a flat fee to just show up and just do everything. And so that means the con goes, here's $1,000, and you go, thank you very much. And then anything you make on top of that, it's up to you. I don't like charging for autographs. It's just my own personal thing. It makes me feel really weird. So like, I prefer just getting paid by the convention and not charging you guys for me to sign stuff and take pictures and things like that.
We thank you for that.
No problem. But like, it depends. It depends on like who you are. So if you're somebody who's mainly only done a little things, you're probably going to get a very, very small amount of money. If you're like a huge name, if you're like Johnny M. Bosch, Bryce Papenbrook, Vic Mignogna, you can get like thousands of dollars. Yeah. And that's weirdly where we make most of our money doing anime, because anime is, believe it or not, is like the worst paying stuff like in the voiceover industry, bar none. And it's like some of the most technically demanding. It's like the most, it's this really weird backwards thing where like it's really, really hard to do well, and it pays the worst. So it's like all these people who are like really great actors are like, I won't do that because that doesn't pay me enough money. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna blow my voice out for like this? No. For like, you know, $150 a week. Like, are you kidding me? That's nuts. I can't do that. So I just do it because I love it. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll do it for whatever money you guys can cough up. It's cool because I love this stuff so much. But that's just kind of how things are. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Growing up, what is the main show that inspired you the most? Like, you're just like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what excites me so much.
It's actually a show that I did. It was called Problem Child, the animated series. It's something I'm willing to bet. You actually saw it?
Yeah.
That's one person. Oh my gosh. Whoa, 2 people? That's 3? That's a record. It's like, most people are like, I have no idea that existed. Like, what the heck is that? It's based on like the 80s movies with the same name. It was my very first animated series. I played the lead in that. I played the Problem Child. And the reason why that made me want to do this is because as a kid actor, you get tortured at school. Like, people think all kinds of stuff that isn't true. Like, you're a movie star and you make millions of dollars and you drive a Ferrari even though you're not even old enough to drive. Like, kids are crazy. And so they treated me like garbage for that, and I hated it. But I loved acting. And I was like, I really want to act, but I hate all of this attention that like I don't even want. So when I did that show, my own friends saw that show and they didn't realize it was me. And I went, oh my gosh, I can act and not have to deal with people being mean to me. This is what I want to do. And so that's what really inspired me to really pursue voice acting as opposed to on-camera stuff. There was a question back there, yes?
This might be a little too behind the scenes for you to talk about. But when it comes to the respect of the voice actors as it is, because you said this is highly demanding but lowest pay. And when it comes to them taking the bigger actors and bringing them in, they don't give a good performance because they're not getting paid enough in their eyes. Do you feel like it's just the practice doesn't treat you guys well enough when it comes down to it?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. When you say like the bigger voices coming in, most of the bigger voices don't come in.
When they do.
Oh, when they do? Well,
and they give a subpar performance because they're not getting paid enough.
It's usually that's not the case. Usually the issue isn't so much that people are giving a subpar performance, it's that we're paid by the hour, which means if you're fast and good, you're more valuable. Because they go, we can save money by working with somebody who can bang this stuff out in 2 hours than somebody who takes 4. So the trouble is, the newer people, or people who maybe don't normally do anime, they struggle with the technical aspect of it. They take longer in the booth, and because the option is either pay them a lot more because they're slower, or just get the best you can and move on. And so that's why you'll see some of these like performances that just really aren't what they should be. And it's not because they're bad actors, it's just that they need to spend more time with the material.